Welcome back to News Talk. Coming up for you in our second half hour today, Washington Post reporter Deneen Brown talks about her look at the hidden world of homeless families living in hotels. Right now, though, let's get back to our conversation with and your phone calls for the acting chief of police in Prince George's County, Hank Stawinski. Let me put out the phone lines again. I know we have people on hold now, but for those of you who wish to talk one-on-one with the chief, the number here is 703-387-1020. As I mentioned a moment ago, we'll go to the phones as your calls come in, and if you're on hold now, please remain on hold. Mute the TV in the room. You'll be able to listen to the conversation with the chief between now and us taking your call through the phone. To what extent, and I know you don't want to sort of put the cart before the horse in terms of your confirmation interview with the council and their subsequent vote on whether you should move from being the acting chief of police in Prince George's County to being the permanent chief, but to the extent that you have been in this world and you've been about this work your whole life,
yes,
and just hearing you talk, I'm confident you have goals and plans and things you'd like to do when that moment comes, when you can put the pedal to the metal. Can you give us a feel for that without getting ahead of what I know is an important moment as you go before council?
Well, I think it's important to note that a well-run government, a well-run police department isn't solely dependent on the single person who may be leading it. So from the department's perspective, some of the things that are very important to our future are the ability to understand the finances of the department, understand the real cost of operating one of the largest police departments in the country, and ensuring that we're good stewards of that money to get good effect. Historically, some of the initiatives that we've put in place have been effective, but to what extent were they effective? So we're looking more deeply at those. One of the critical issues that needs to be addressed and that I would hope to help address in the future is the growth of the department. The reality is that we could use an additional number of police officers. What we're doing now, going back to the blizzard, going back to some of the work that you've seen in Prince George's County over the last several years under Chief McGaugh, is extraordinary efforting. It's about someone working a shift and then working additional hours beyond that shift to provide the additional measure of deterrence or prevention so that we have a safe community. And as the department grows and as we understand those finances, I'm confident that safety can be provided in a way that it ensures not only the safety of the community, ensures that it's done in a fiscally responsible way, but also ensures that the police officers as individuals are not constantly extraordinarily efforting themselves in terms of hours, because as you pointed out, they are away from their families. And there are demands of this job that are extraordinary, and finding a way to provide and support them as they choose this vocation, I see that as a critical responsibility of leadership. A moment ago, and I want to go to the phones right now, so we'll pick up on line 2 and talk to Betty Jo, but don't let me forget, a moment ago you talked about hoping to pivot from being reactionary to preventing crime, yes, and I think that's worthy of some additional conversation, so we'll do that. But right now, let's hear from Betty Jo. I don't want to keep you holding any longer. Betty Jo, you're on the air with the chief. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Chief Henry. I just wanted to say, for the most part, I think that the police department in Prince George's County do a great job with policing. Every time I've ever had to encounter any police, they were very professional. I never, ever felt afraid. I actually own an assisted living in Prince George's County, and even when I've had missing residents, the police came, they responded immediately, they were more than helpful. So I think that they deserve more kudos than what they have been getting. I also just had a question of, as people are moving from the district to Prince George's County, how are we going to handle like the overflow of people moving into the county?
Thank you, Betty Jo.
Well, Betty Jo, that was very kind, and I appreciate you recognizing the good work of the men and women of the Prince George's County Police Department. I say this publicly, and I'll say it now. I have the privilege of right now, as the interim, of leading one of the most progressive and effective departments, I believe, in the country. In terms of your question about the shifting in population, this is a phenomenon that we've been looking at for a long time. In the late 60s and early 70s, there was a tremendous influx of population in Prince George's County, and I've studied how the county dealt with those population-related issues. So in the present context, we are seeing more people coming into Prince George's County because there are tremendous opportunities, there's tremendous housing stock, and the reality is that we can accommodate that growth in population. The key from a policing perspective is to put police facilities, just as the new District 7 in the south part of the county, in places that are the center of gravity of that population. So we have reduced response time, we have increased presence. And then beyond that, not reacting to crime, and District 7 again is a good example of us putting resources into a community ahead of demand. And as long as we're postured and grow and put resources ahead of demand, then the population is welcomed and frankly creates new opportunities for the county that we haven't historically had.
Can you talk about the moment that we're in, not just in the county or even regionally, but nationally, where there's so much scrutiny of police work, where the microscope and the lens and the spotlight are very intense, and frankly where some have seen, we've been bombarded with images online where our sense of how policing should be, not that a video clip gives you the entirety of whatever the interaction was, but we've all seen things that strike us as off, as wrong.
Agreed. Can
you talk about this moment in police-community relations in the U.S.?
Well, I value this moment in police evolution, in American policing particularly, because policing, just like every other facet of our society, must evolve. Justice Brandeis said that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. So that public scrutiny merely means that police officers have to be better trained, better equipped, and more professional to live up to the standards that we expect. I share with police officers routinely the notion that they've accepted, by virtue of their office, a greater responsibility for the preservation of our society, and they've put personal risk into that equation. We want and must have the support of the community. That's why we listen carefully to the community's concerns about policing in Prince George's County. We shape our policies and our initiatives around those perspectives, because we derive our authority to enforce the law from them. The police department is not a part from the community, is a part of the community. And coming back around to the foundation of policing by Peel, what Peel talked about was a professional and effective police department isn't judged by how it's seen reacting to crime or to a video or to anything in the modern context, but by the absence of those things. And the other thing I'll offer gently is that some of those videos are not representative of policing. They're representative of events where people have made tremendously poor decisions. They're acting outside of their office. And just as you see bad actors in other professions doing things that are contrary to their code, they're contrary to the law, you see that in some instances in policing. The obligation of leadership is to foster a culture that says that you're responsive to the community, that you're respectful of life and all persons and their dignity, and then where people step outside of that role or act contrary to the public interest, you effectively discipline them.
Does Prince George's have today a process that you can point to and be proud of, where if someone has an experience that they don't think was right, they can avail themselves easily of the first step in evaluation process, and where whatever then follows is fair both to the citizen and the officer?
Yes, and being one of the few departments in the country who has gone into and come out of a Department of Justice memorandum of agreement and consent decree, we had an opportunity to improve those processes. And then under Chief McGaul, we took an additional step. So there is the formal internal affairs investigation, which people have access to through electronically, through forms in the public libraries, through the district stations, and an internal affairs division that's properly staffed to address those concerns. We also have an independent inspector general hired from the Department of Justice who has portfolio to move throughout the agency and look into matters of concern. I've just asked him to look into one in the last 24 hours. So my investment as leader of the agency is to ensure that the integrity of the department is preserved and the public's confidence is preserved. So I'm completely invested in ensuring that the public knows that if they have a concern, it will be looked into and it will be dealt with properly.
To the phones again. Charles on line 1. Not a ton of time, but please go ahead. I did want to hear from you, and you're on the air, Charles. Charles, are you there?
We'll yes, my comment and question relate to the image that that the community sees regarding police force. Now, I know whenever I see state police, and we have a great state police department, and you know the clothes they wear, they just look so professional with the hat and the tie. And when I was a kid growing up, even the county police portrayed that image of professionalism with the clothes that they wore. And I just noticed over the last several years that we see more patrolmen in fatigue type gear, and I know SWAT has to wear a tactical type uniform, but does the chief feel like that it could be an effort to bring back that level of professionalism just by, asking some of the departments to wear the type of suit tie, not suit tie and nice shiny shoes type of uniform? It makes it portrays the image of a police force rather than a military force when you see these officers walking around with.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate the call and appreciate the thought.
Well, Charles's sentiments resonate with me, and how we choose to present ourselves to the public as police officers makes a tremendous difference. And there is a trend to some of these less formal uniforms. I'm very proud of our uniform, and we've just made a decision that our recruits will now wear the gray uniform in the recruit academy versus the blue. We have taken steps in the last few years to professionalize those lighter duty uniforms, the blue uniforms, if you will. But I believe what Charles is saying is true, and I believe that the police officer must be distinguished by their appearance. I think Superintendent Palazzi is doing a tremendous job with the Maryland State Police, and they do present a very professional demeanor. Our goal is to increase the public's confidence in the police officer by having them represent that community in a crisp, professional attire.
You are, if you're confirmed by the council, you'll be, and I'm not breaking news here, you'll be a white chief in a majority African-American community. Did this come up in whatever conversations you had with the executive prior to his decision about who he wanted to be the chief going forward? And does it impact, or is it part of your own internal thinking about the job, if you get it?
Well, I have been thoughtful about every facet of my career and how I would prepare myself to lead. And the reality is that I am a native of Prince George's County. I believe that I, like a great many other people, represent the values and perspectives of Prince George's County. But that said, it's important to me that all perspectives are shared, and so I've taken deliberate steps to talk to people representing a host of different perspectives to ensure that my decisions, should I be confirmed, but in this interim position as well, are appropriate to the expectations of those various groups, the diverse community that is Prince George's County. And my expectation is that those conversations will continue to be joined, just like in the last 24 hours. A group representing every corner of Prince George's County at one point or another in the last 24 hours has spoken to me directly. And I've said, and I'm hanked to them. So with that, I think I'm well prepared to lead this county, the men and women of this police department, and I believe that we will continue, just has been established in the last 5 years, to be responsive to their concerns and to represent the interests of the whole county to the betterment of our community.
Hank Stawinski is the acting chief of police in Prince George's County. Confirmation before the county council beginning in the days that follow. Thanks very much for coming in. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we hope to have you back whenever you choose to come in. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. An update on the hour's top stories is next, and then the hidden world of homeless families.